I picked up Tom Brady because I do not like Russell Wilson's matchup against the Washington FT this week. I saw this playing out 4 weeks ago, and so when somebody tilted and dropped Tom Brady, I picked him up. He's had at least 2 touchdown passes in 4 consecutive games. 2 touchdown passes at least in 7 of his last 8. The Falcons have allowed a top 8 fantasy quarterback in 3 of their last 5, because that's significant, because the Falcons have allowed the most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks this season. But you really want to look at recent. What has happened recently? Top 8 fantasy quarterback, 3 of their last 5. I'm really starting to lean towards Tom Brady. And I know we have a bunch of B-roll. I want to circle back to this because I have more thoughts on this, but I know we have to go show this Philip Rivers video because this is what we got to do. No, wait, what are we doing? Are we doing Phil Rivers here or Kirk Cousins? We are doing it. All right. I know on the Fantasy Live show. On the Fantasy Live show, I'm doing Kirk Cousins. So, because I gave them 3. So I'm like, wait a minute. I'm looking at my notes. So I didn't want to get, what show am I on? What day is this? I really do like Philip Rivers. At least 2 touchdowns in his last 4 games, even though he's getting pulled at the goal line, which is annoying. They're running the Wildcat and everything like that, but he was going to hand the ball off anyways. So what do I care? This is a great matchup against the Houston Texans, who've given up a lot of production to quarterbacks. You saw what happened last week with Mitch Trubisky, my guy, Mitch. So I like Philip Rivers this week. I think that he's going to give you a nice, comfortable floor, somewhere to be between 18, 20 points. Again, I don't know what you're doing. I think the only reason you're playing quarterbacks like this is if you've been struggling, like if you had Drew Brees and you've had to stream some quarterbacks. Going back to that Russell Wilson example, I would probably play Russell over Philip Rivers because I think either one of these quarterbacks is kind of a risk. But it is one of those things, man, where I look at this game with Russell Wilson and I'm like, I'm not going to list him as a sit. I don't want people to see that on the scroll. People are too literal. They take the stardom sit-em way too literal. And also, if you're watching the videos, the player updates that we put on the app, on the all-new NFL Fantasy app, like people are like, well, you said on that video to pick up the start Ezekiel Elliott. I'm like, I also told you to start Jonathan Taylor in the same videos. Like they're not back-to-back. I don't know what to tell you. But I'm really worried about this Russell Wilson thing. I think Tom Brady can have a really good game. I know a lot of people love to do this, start your studs and all that stuff. It's like, well, you'll lose with your stud, I feel. Tom Brady will be. I've talked myself into. Oh, here's what I wanted to say about Tom Brady. Last week, Justin Herbert attempted 44 passes. They just weren't going down the field. That was a big thing, and that's why they were able to kind of clog the middle. And Justin Herbert, I think he had 7 passes over 10 yards out of 44. Like Kirk Cousins had 7 passes over 10 yards. He attempted 23. So Tom Brady's going to take his shots downfield where I feel the Falcons are vulnerable. So I'm feeling more and more comfortable about Tom Brady. I hit the optimize button too. So I'm going to let the optimize of Fantasy Plus take the brunt if I do not win this league. I shouldn't win this league. I shouldn't win this league because my first pick was Christian McCaffrey and my running backs are McCaffrey, Antonio Gibson, Josh Jacobs. At least Josh Jacobs will play. I had Myles Gaskin. Like I'm lucky to be this far. So I'm gonna go with Tom Brady. That was a long-winded answer. Sorry, Visa, that I'm taking up all your time with this.
But it also transitions us perfectly to running backs, so you can just kind of keep on rolling with your starting running backs for the week.
Well, I really love Jonathan Taylor, and this comes from my stubbornness of planting my flag on the hill of rookie running backs. And Jonathan Taylor's really been paying off. And this is the one thing that we've been waiting for. We really liked him, obviously, coming into this season because of his ability to do things like that. But we're seeing him more and more get involved in the passing game, which is exactly what we wanted out of him. So to me, unless Frank Reich is just, setting us up, because he's acknowledged fantasy enthusiasts previously, and maybe he's just trying to do right by us. But I think he also wants to win football games. And I think that now is not the time of the season where you want to preserve your players. You want to go full tilt and get the ball into the hands of your best players. So we love Jonathan Taylor. And another rookie running back that we're really excited about is Cam Akers. He was on the injury report last week, and then he still carried the ball. He touched the ball 31 times against the Patriots here. I was in my hospital bed and I tweeted out Cam Akers tonight, and he went out there and had that awesome game. And so to me, what the most significant part of all this is the opportunities that he's getting anytime they're near the goal line. He's had at least 13 touches inside the 10-yard line since week 11. That's the most on the team. This was really one of the things we were wondering about coming into this season. Todd Gurley was so good over the last number of years is because every time the Rams got near the goal line, they ran the football. Sean McVay did not change that philosophy. He has changed the running backs. He went to Malcolm Brown earlier in the year, but now it's all Cam Akers. So I have the utmost trust in him. Unless Sean McVay is on the verge of pulling the biggest heel turn in fantasy football history, setting us up like Seth Rollins when he turned on the Shield, like MJF when he turned on Cody Rhodes, I still have confidence in Cam Akers.
I'm starting to believe too, which means that some trick of the light is coming. The rug's going to get pulled out from under us somewhere, but hopefully not. Hopefully not before the season's over. So you went a couple of rookie running backs. You kind of keep the rookie theme going with your wide receivers, it looks like.
I'm just looking now and I'm like, oh, I have all rookies. This is my thing. Everybody knows this. Rank falls in love with rookies. It's what I do. It's the way that I construct a lot of my teams. And one of the players I really like was Brandon Ayuk coming out of Arizona State. I'm a Sun Devil guy, throw up the horns. He has been fantastic. He has averaged over 21 fantasy points since week 8. That's third amongst wide receivers. He's had at least 17 fantasy points in 5 consecutive games, 1 receiving touchdown in 3 out of his last 4 contests. Debo is not expected to play not only this week, but for the rest of the season. And he's going up against the Dallas Cowboys, who've allowed the most receiving touchdowns to wide receivers this season, 22. This guy, I know a lot of people are throwing out hot takes like, oh, he's a top 10. Dude, this could end up being the wide receiver 1 on the week. Make sure that he is in your lineup. And another rookie that we all love, Justin Jefferson. We loved him coming into the draft. Everybody loved Justin Jefferson coming into the draft. Well, not the Eagles, not you. But everybody else loved Justin Jefferson. He has averaged just right around 17 fantasy points per game this season. That's 12th amongst wide receivers, 17 fantasy points at least in 4 out of his last 5. Obviously, on the road at Tampa Bay last week, Kirk Cousins, not a good road quarterback. We know that. You kind of should have expected it, but you still start him anyways because of the upside. Now he's got the Bears. Last time they faced off, he had about 135. He had a touch. He was close to 22 fantasy points. He was covered primarily by Jalen Johnson, the rookie out of Utah. He's battling a shoulder injury. So if you get an opportunity to get Justin Jefferson back into your lineup, as a Bears fan, trying to be as objective as possible, you're going to want to start Justin Jefferson.
He has been objectively good this year, so I don't think anybody can accuse you of bias for throwing him in the lineup. Tight ends, if you could come up with 2 rookie tight ends to start, I will be impressed. I don't envision that happening.
I'll get one in, but I'm going to go to the veteran first, and that's Rob Gronkowski. Just once again, hoping that Tom Brady is going to come through for me, and I know that's a chore to trust Tom Brady, but I really do think that I really do believe that what we've seen out of Rob Gronkowski gives me a lot of faith moving forward. He's been a touchdown machine, and last week got into the end zone, and you're like, all right, like this is great. He's going to be on the verge of a good game. That was his only reception, was the 1 touchdown, which, you know what, for the tight end position this season, I'll take that. Like, I'm shooting for double-digit points because anybody not named Travis Kelce, you kind of just hope that he can get you double-digit points. But I think Rob Gronkowski can do it. Now for the rookie, Cole Kmet. And Marcus, I'm going to use this time to give you the hottest take that I can possibly give you is next year, Cole Kmet, right there in that number 85, is going to be the George Kittle of next season. He's going to have that kind of George Kittle breakout because they love him. Bill Lazor has loved him, and since he took over the play calling, they have made a concerted effort to get him the football. Now, last week, what happened was Cole Kmet was a monster. He was on Kyle Brandt's Angry Runs. You should go back and check that out. He was amazing. There it is. There's one of them right there. Such an angry runner. Obviously, Jimmy Graham got the touchdown. That was unfortunate because the Lions, like the rest of us, are like, Jimmy Graham's whatever. We'll cover Cole Kmet. Oh, wait. I like the matchup this week. I love Cole Kmet. I love Cole Kmet going forward. It's really tough for tight ends, especially in their rookie year, to come in and make a huge impact. Next season, where I'm going to try to get you all to draft Travis Kelce super early. If we don't, one of the guys that we're going to target is Cole Kmet. And I still believe that the Bears coaching staff is going to be the same. I know a lot of the Bears fans don't feel that way, but look, we're going to finish 9-7. You're not going to fire a coach, even if the Bears finish 8-8, 7-9. unless they lose to the Jags, which they're not going to. This coaching staff is coming back. But as long as Bill Lazor likes Cole Kmet, we'll be fine moving forward.
I like Cole Kmet too. And I know we've always kind of held on to the rookie tight ends don't do much, and that's true. But I do think we're starting to see more and more guys at that position, start to pop a little bit earlier. I mean, you get your Fants and your Hawkinsons and your Kittles to some extent. So I think, there are those standout guys that can make an impression in their first year, and I think Cole Kmet is certainly one of them. A couple defenses that folks should hone in on this week.
Well, I'm going to go with the Dolphins defense, who was really good last week against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think a lot of us dropped them. I'm sure you did, because you saw the Chiefs. You're like, I don't want to do it. They ended up scoring double-digit points. They were creating turnovers and doing a lot of good things. I mean, this Brian Flores defense is really good. And if you don't have one of the top ones, I've got to assume that the Dolphins are still available to you. Go pick them up right now and start them, unless you have, one of the top defenses. Even, you know what? If you have the Saints defense, you might want to consider not playing them as well. But here's my thing. I will go pick up the Dolphins. I will play them this week. I think that the whole notion of the Patriots not playing well in South Beach was not necessarily just a Tom Brady thing. I think it translates to the whole thing. Speaking of Tom Brady, let's talk about his defense, which I like this week going up against the Atlanta Falcons. I hope that they can get to the quarterback, cause some turnovers there. We saw last week the Chargers, if they had a better defense, probably could have done some damage. Matt Ryan is still throwing game-crippling interceptions and things of that nature. So I like the Buccaneers this week. I think that, they get overlooked a lot, but they've been playing pretty well. I thought they did a really nice job last week against the Vikings. I know it's Kirk Cousins on the road, but I think that was a pretty good indication of what they're going to be able to do this week against the Atlanta Falcons. Excuse me. Goodness. Sorry, Marcus. My notes. I'm looking over. My notes are all over the place because it's two different shows. I got to prepare for two different shows, and I differentiated a lot of this stuff for both shows, so I apologize.
It absolutely happens. I mean, just you look behind the curtain for everybody out there. I think for you, I know for me, on any given day, I am working on two different shows at the same time, pretty much. So I understand. I understand where you're coming from.